Alright everybody, and welcome back to Gabriel Night 1, Sins of the Fathers. So we weren't quite at 40 minutes in the last video, but we were pretty close, so I went ahead and split it up. Like I said, this is kind of a longest chapter with a lot of dialogue. You know, admittedly, they all have a lot of dialogue. For you, this has probably been like a day or two since the last video came out, but it was literally like 5 seconds ago for me. But anyway, we just came to Tulane University. We saw this little lecture about the traditions and practices of historical voodoo or voodoo in Africa. We also talked to Mosley again, and he was having questionable luck interviewing a suspect. Didn't really go that well for him, and we got our completed drawing here. So we have quite a few new global topics we can talk about voodoo now, since we've attended this little lecture here. Before we go, there is a little Easter egg here on the wall I wanted to point out.
Gabriel scans the bulletin board. Greek night at the Alpha Psi Omega frat house. It looks like it took place sometime last spring.
Not that one.
Gabriel, there's a notice for a lecture on investigative reporting techniques to be given by octogenarian Pulitzer Prize winner Laura Dorian. Unfortunately, it's weeks away. By that time, Gabriel will have to have learned on his own.
That is, of course, a reference to Laura Bow from Colonel's Bequest and The Dagger of Amun-Ra, another Sierra adventure game that has kind of a similar theme to this, but a little bit more on the comedic side.
Are you a student? No. My name is Knight. Gabriel Knight.
I see.
Well, you have walked into my private office, Mr. Knight. I hope you have something worthwhile to do here. If you figure it out, let me know.
I'm gonna waste plenty of your time. This guy's got a really interesting looking office here.
Exotic fish lend even more color to the cluttered office.
I got this pillar over here that's a huge face.
It's an enormous stone head. The squatter grins maliciously at Gabriel.
He's pooping.
The carved stone head looks African and very old.
It might technically be African, but it looks like Sargon of the Akkadian Empire, which I guess would be more Middle Eastern than African.
Dr. Hartridge's office is crowded with...
Okay, we wasted enough time. Let's get to the point. So, let's pick your brain about this voodoo business.
And if I pick your brain? Not if it will get you out of my office.
It will not. Oh, what can you tell me about voodoo?
What can you tell me about voodoo? You already sat through my lecture on the subject, Mr. Knight. Perhaps next time you could stay awake and learn something.
Maybe you could make it more interesting next time.
What do you know about the voodoo murders? I've read about them in the papers. I must admit to some interest. But according to the newspapers, the voodoo aspect is faked, so I haven't really pursued it. You know how Americans, especially Hollywood, treats voodoo. I'm sure there are many so-called practitioners out there that have no idea what they're doing or the power they're playing with.
I see. What can you tell me about
What can you tell me about New Orleans? I find it interesting to see the occasional fragment of voodoo practices in the everyday culture of New Orleans.
I see. What about snakes?
Do you know anything about snakes? I'm not a zoologist, Mr. Knight, but I know all I care to about reptiles.
Okay, well, sounds like that might be important in voodoo, but what do I know?
Do you have any idea what Cabri sans corps means? Cabri sans corps? Yes, I do. It's a Haitian term, I believe. It's French, and literally translates as goat without horns. As in a female goat? No, as in a human sacrifice. Sacrifices in voodoo are usually of the animal variety. Chickens, wolves, goats. If the gods demand a goat without horns, it means a human being.
I see. Well, we finally figured out what Cabri sans corps means, and you can ask him about it again.
What was that translation for Cabri sans corps again? I'm not in the habit of repeating myself, Mr. Knight.
There was no reason for me to do that. I just wanted to be a dick.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau? While I find the colloquial bastardizations of voodoo somewhat interesting from a sheerly intellectual point of view, There's not a lot of relation between people like Laveau and true voodoo practices.
I see. He's a voodoo hipster, I see. So we have some new topics here that are global, the animal masks and veves.
Do you know anything about animal masks? As I said in my lecture, which I assume you actually listened to, is that
Somewhat.
animal masks, totems, are used extensively in most African voodoo religions.
I see. What about veves?
Tell me about veves.
If you'd taken notes during my lecture, you wouldn't have to ask.
That's true. That is true. What about a Schuttenjäger?
Have you ever heard of a Schuttenjäger?
I'm afraid I can't help you there, Mr. Knight.
I see. Well, tell me about yourself.
Tell me about yourself.
All right, Mr. Knight, I'm 35, a fully tenured professor at this university, as well as a fellow at Cambridge. My doctorate was obtained at Syracuse. Yes, Syracuse, in religious studies. I'm an agnostic, but I find human belief systems fascinating. I specialize in African religions because I grew up there. My father was a Protestant missionary. And I am heterosexual, when I practice sex at all, which isn't very often.
Well, at least you're
Any other
practicing.
questions?
No.
Fine.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the meat and potatoes of this conversation.
Tell me more about human sacrifice.
It's very rare. Most voodoo practices do not include human sacrifice as a matter of record, but it is theoretically possible if that's what the gods demand. For example, one of the chants I had translated for me from a Haitian ritual went like this. Mistress Azuli, come and aid us. If a cock is demanded, we will give it. If a
Nope,
bull
not gonna
will
make the
suffice, behold it. But if a goat without horns is required for sacrifice, oh, where will we find one? Azuli is the gentlest of Loa, so they call on her for mercy. But I have seen grown and powerful Hungan tremble before a possession by one of the more violent Loa, such as Papa Nebo. Clearly, they are afraid that something of the sort will be ordered, or that the Loa will simply take it for themselves.
I see. Can you tell me more about human sacrifice?
Tell me more about human sacrifice.
I wouldn't dwell on it. Most voodoo sects probably haven't seen a human sacrifice for several generations.
Okay, well, what if we show him some of the stuff that we've collected from our time investigating the voodoo murders?
Is there anything you can tell me about the voodoo aspects of this photograph?
This is serious voodoo ritual. Nasty stuff.
In what way?
Let's see. I can't make out much detail from this photograph. Except for the corpse, of course. But the wound, the face, and what little I can see of the ritual paraphernalia. Reminds me of certain black voodoo practices. Very rare. I've never witnessed them myself, you understand.
At least we have
Really?
his interest.
Interesting. Thanks.
And we actually have a few more conversation topics now. Let's go ahead and ask him about this other stuff that we have here. The letters from Marie
Can you tell me
Laveau's
anything
tomb.
about this?
No, I've never seen those symbols. Therefore, they're probably meaningless.
Really? Are you sure?
I am never wrong, Mr. Knight. Therefore, sure is not in my vocabulary.
I feel we should have asked him about that first. Makes a little bit more sense with his reaction, but whatever. And we have this little copy of a Veve here that we can show him.
Can you tell me anything about this pattern?
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. Mind if I copy this?
You're my guest.
Great. I'll be right back.
Okay, well, we have his interest again. We don't have an opportunity to steal from his office, sadly.
Here you go. You know, this is a fascinating Veve. You must tell me all about its origin.
Actually, I was hoping you'd tell me. Can you figure out anything about it from the symbols?
Well, some. That's why I wanted a copy. I want to research the design myself. Each of the symbols in the Veve represents something, a Loa, a place. Where did you get this?
Have you heard of the voodoo murders?
No, you're kidding. Really? Then the voodoo is authentic. The newspapers are wrong. Boy, are they wrong.
You think this Veve is authentic, then?
Authentic? Mr. Knight, that's like asking if the Mona Lisa is a painting. Tell you what, I'll look into these symbols myself and see what I can learn about the sect that made this. I'll give you a call when I have more information. You are associated with the police, aren't you?
Of course.
Absolutely. But I'm, undercover. You can contact me at the St. George's Bookshop in the quarter.
All right. Now, I'd like to get started on this if you don't mind.
Sweet. Alright, I don't think we really have anything else we need to show him. He doesn't know anything about the snake scales. Alright, and we have a couple more
For a few more...
universal conversation topics now. And by a couple more, I mean Black Voodoo.
Tell me what you mean by Black Voodoo.
Well, like any religion, the beliefs can tend toward positive or negative ends. Can be used for good or evil. Christianity, for example, has its doppelganger, Satanism. Anytime you attempt to set up an icon to explain evil, you invite some warped mind to worship it. The same is true of voodoo. There are those who are drawn by and desire personal power from the darker, bloodier Loa.
I see. Well, is there anything else you can tell us
Can
about
you
it?
give me an example of Black Voodoo?
All right. There is a very secret, very dark cult in Haiti called the Cult de Mort, Cult of the Dead. Their primary law is Papa Nebo, Loa of the Cemetery. They practice a particularly disgusting form of necromancy, magic using the dead. They dig up corpses and use their decaying bodies for various spells and curses.
I see. So I don't know if he has anything else to say about Black Voodoo.
Can you give me another example of Black Voodoo?
No.
In tribal Africa there were, and still are, black bokors. Shamans bent towards the dark, who not only practiced necromancy, but also human sacrifice.
I see. But he seems to think that's kind of what's going on here.
Is there anything else you can tell me about Black Voodoo?
Only that if it's being practiced in this city, none of us are safe.
Alright, I think we've about exhausted everything he can tell us for now. Well, we hopefully have another lead. Hopefully he'll get back to us tomorrow.
I'll be going.
Good day, Mr. Knight.
Alright.
That
So we have a couple more things we can check up on today. I actually did, despite my best efforts, I forgot to pick up something while we were at the crime scene. If you click the hand icon over here...
Is that clay? Yuck.
You will just pick up some clay and shove it right up on your pants.
Gabriel might need the clay.
I was hoping he was going to say something funny, but he did not. Alright, so let's check up on a couple of things right quick. First, let's head on back to, well, no, we don't need to go to the police station. He doesn't have anything new to say to us. We have the Cavsno residence we can follow up on, and we can also go and bother Dr. John, see if he knows anything about the new voodoo topics that we
Dr. John.
learned about.
Glad you could return to us, Mr. Knight.
I see. How are you doing? I don't believe we've shown him these symbols yet.
Does this pattern look familiar to you?
Where did you get that?
You do recognize it then?
I have never seen it before in my life.
You're starting to look pretty suspicious yourself, Dr. John.
Could I ask you some more questions?
Of course. I also find our dialogue stimulating.
That's one word for it. Alright, so, we know what Cabri-san Core means, so...
You're sure you haven't...
I am sure, Mr. Knight.
Okay, he doesn't have anything new to say about it. How about animal
Do
masks?
you know anything about animal masks?
I used to have some antique African totem masks, but they were on the point of disintegration, so I removed them.
I see. How about Veves?
Do you know anything about Veves?
I believe they have something to do with Haitian voodoo, but that is not really my area.
I see. How about Black Voodoo?
Do you know anything about Black Voodoo?
That sort of viewpoint makes my work very difficult, Mr. Knight.
I'm not implying that all voodoo is evil, but there are certain practitioners that use voodoo towards a darker end, aren't there?
No one that I am familiar with. If there are one or two ignorant believers, that is none of my concern. And I do not care to promote a Hollywood interpretation of voodoo by discussing it.
I see. Let's see if we can upset him even further.
You really don't know anything about black voodoo practices?
I believe I already indicated my intolerance for that line of inquiry.
I see. Well, on something completely different.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No, I have not.
I don't think anyone in this town knows what Schottenjäger is. So we also have another unique topic for him, Malia Getty.
Do you know Malia Getty?
Should I?
She referred me to your museum.
Many have read about our museum in the newspapers, Mr. Knight.
That's a good point.
I don't know exactly why she shows up as a topic at his store, but she does. And if we look at the coffin again...
Professor Hartridge said that in Voodoo, a small ritual coffin is called a seke module.
So they do provide a little bit of different dialogue if you know what it is.
I'll be going.
Walk carefully out there, Mr. Knight.
Will do. Alright, let's head back to the Dixieland drugstore right quick. See if we can follow up on some of these voodoo topics with him.
Hi.
Gabriel?
Can I ask you just a few more questions?
Must you?
Whatever, man.
So, what can you... Okay, so we know what Cabrice Encore means now, so we can follow up with him about it.
I found out what Cabrice Encore means. How did you know about human sacrifice?
I never said those words, monsieur. You must have heard them from someone else.
Now, what do you know about animal masks?
Do you know anything about animal masks?
Like the ones in the voodoo rituals they do for the tourists?
Right.
I used to sell a few as souvenirs. The only one left is Willie Jr. over there. The old crocodile. Well, he's sort of a mascot now, him.
Okay. So we can ask him now about Willie Jr.
About Willie Jr. Would you be willing to let him go?
Maybe. For $100.
$100? You gotta be kidding.
That's like
Me and Willie
$2.5
Jr.
million
very
in today's
close
money.
now. I could part with him for less.
Okay, so Gabriel wants to buy Willie Jr. for reasons that are not yet clear. Tells me he's got some ideas percolating up in there. Let's go ahead and ask about these other topics right quick.
Do you know anything about black voodoo?
Black voodoo? Oh, no such thing, I tell you for sure.
Sure thing.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
Man, I don't even know what language that is.
Cool. So we need to pay him for Willie Jr. Unfortunately, we don't have any money. And we gave away our coupon, so that's all we got. Alright, well, we'll have to come back here later. Once we acquire some coinage at some point. So the only place we really haven't gone is the Casino residence. So let's go see if we can pay her a visit. Maybe we'll learn something new.
Yes? Who is it?
I'm writing an article on voodoo.
Hi, I'm doing an article on voodoo, and I heard that you...
I am a good Catholic, young man. Take your evil influence elsewhere.
But I just have a few questions.
I can feel the evil eye. Go away.
And that's as much of a clue as you're getting on what we need to do to get in here. So, if from that conversation you guess that we need to break into the church, and we need to go into this back room and steal a priest's costume, then you are fit to play Sierra games. Add this to the list of things I looked up.
Well, you never know when a priest's collar will come in handy.
Alright, and we gotta move his ass out of the way.
I can't resist black.
And now we have a priest's uniform. And there are a couple of fun little dialogue options you can get with that, but I'll spare you. Let's go ahead and go down here again. Our little fortune teller friend is back.
It appears that Madame Lorelei has returned.
How you doing? You kind of ran off on me last time.
You're back. You know, you really freaked me out running off like that. Yoo-hoo! Anybody home?
Stay away from Margagetti, or you shall pay with your life.
Isn't anyone around here friendly?
What the hell is going on?
She just disappeared into thin air. Can we loot her stand?
Gabriel doesn't want to take that out of the park.
Okay, I guess not. Alright, well, no, wrong way. Okay, so now we have our priest's costume. We can go and trick an old lady into letting us into her house. Alright, and
It would be...
no. Gotta change that.
Alright, but this is private.
Oh, we don't get a show. Alright, maybe she'll find us a little bit more acceptable now.
It would be better to be invited in...
Okay, well... Oh my god!
Yes? Who is it?
Father McLaughlin here to see
Father
you.
McLaughlin to see you.
Well, Father, you should be ashamed of yourself being so ill-groomed. I am sure the bishop would never approve. You can just go get a haircut before you come calling on me again. I know my duty, Father. But a priest seeking contributions should take pains to represent the church with respect.
Okay, well, we got clowned on for our hair yet again. And all the way back in chapter 1 we picked up this hair gel, so let's make some use of it.
The things I do for my art.
Yes? Who is it?
It's the same person you saw 5 seconds ago.
It's Father McLaughlin to see you.
I see you've taken my advice, Father. I didn't mean to be harsh, but the church is the church.
World's fastest
when
haircut.
you're right, you're right.
Exactly. Come in, Father. Please be seated.
Thank you.
Now, what can I do for you?
So she got some pictures of the Virgin Mary and Jesus. And those little, what do you call these? A screen with a snake on it.
The folding screen has a colorful pattern. It looks oriental.
That wasn't really what I thought it looked like, but okay. Oh, she got one of those candles.
Madame's parlor is full of carefully dusted and polished relics.
That's the candles she got from the voodoo shop. Anyway, we're here to ask questions and find out what we can about voodoo.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions, my child?
Of course not, mon père.
What can you tell me about? Oh, you know how it goes.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
People think I'm just a foolish old woman, but I know the things they do. My family's been in New Orleans since 1750, so I know more than most. Voodoo people are all over this city, in the shops, everywhere. They'll curse you like that, and most people don't even notice. Spit on your bread at the bakery. Take strands of your hair at the store when you try on the clothes. You have to be so careful.
I see.
But I know their ways, so I can protect myself. I know how to use the magic too, and I can counteract their evil spells.
I see. She has a little gree-gree of her own.
Tell me more about voodoo in New Orleans.
It's just plain evil. It's dangerous to even discuss it.
Well, we'll be doing a lot more of that.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Voodoo murders? Ha! They are nothing new to me, Father. They happen all the time. I hardly go out anymore. It's too dangerous in the streets. They can get you anywhere, you know. Even here in this room. But I try not to let them know about me. That's the best way.
I see. What can you tell me about snakes?
Do you know anything about snakes?
Snakes? They're evil creatures. Did you know that evil people can send them into your dreams? They can. That's why I never sleep.
Right, thanks.
This is who's filling up your Facebook feed. Alright. I wonder if she knows what Cabri Sankor means.
Do you have any idea what Cabri Sankor means?
Mais oui, I know. I bet you do not, Father, n'est-ce pas?
As it turns out, we do know what it means.
It means goat without horns.
Father, you surprise me. You do know what it means. You know what they mean by goat without horns, don't you? A human being? That's right. Slit your throat, cut out your heart. Pure evil murder.
I see. So now she knows we know our stuff. We know a little bit about voodoo. What do you know about Marie Laveau?
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
We haven't actually talked about her
She was only a
yet.
front for the real evildoers, Father. And that's the truth about Marie Laveau.
I see. What do you know about animal masks?
Do you know anything about animal masks?
No, Father. I don't know anything about that.
Okay, so she's not a freak in bed. So you know anything about Veves?
Do you know anything about Veves?
No, Father. I don't.
Okay. What about black voodoo?
Do you know anything about black voodoo?
Oh, yes, Father. It is the wickedest kind. The kind they practice here in New Orleans.
I see. Tell me more.
Tell me more about black voodoo.
I already told you, black voodoo is what they practice here.
I was hoping you'd tell me something useful.
Have you ever heard of a Schattenjäger?
No, Father. I don't know anything about that.
I see. Well, I don't really care about her, so let's ask about human sacrifice.
Do you know anything about human sacrifice here in New Orleans?
Well, my great-grandmother could tell stories. She saw it. People say that sort of thing wasn't done in New Orleans. But the real voodoo queens did it. Oh, yes.
The real voodoo queens.
Who were the real voodoo queens?
Well, my great-grandmother told me that Laveau was just a front, a flamboyant decoy. She distracted authorities from the real voodoo queen of New Orleans.
You didn't actually answer the
It's been
question?
the same one for almost 200 years. She's head of a secret voodoo en fort. That's what they call their temples, you know. It's so secret, most of the voodoo people in the city don't even know about it. The real voodoo queen controlled Laveau, gave her a little bit of power, and used her like a puppet.
Okay, so she says there's a semi-immortal voodoo queen and a secret voodoo hound for. Who probably knows a lot about secret sects. Moving on, tell me about this voodoo hound
Tell
for.
me more about this secret voodoo hound four.
Well, I've never seen it. I wouldn't go near it if you paid me. But it's here in Orleans, I guarantee it. I hear the drums at night, oh yes. That's why I am so ill. I tell you, those drums. But we shouldn't talk about it. They'll hear us. It's the devil's work that happens there. I can tell you. I'll show you something. Something secret. You mustn't tell anyone, Father.
I swear on my collar.
I'm a real priest.
Here it is, mon père. A true object of evil if there ever was one.
It radiates something, alright.
It belonged to my great-grandmother. She told my mother that it was a token to gain entrance to the real voodoo ceremonies.
You don't say.
To tell you the truth, I always felt nervous about having it in the house. You know, evil influence and all.
Oh, I can see how you would, yes.
And yet, I could never part with it. It's been in the family for generations. Would you bless it for me, Father? I feel strange asking such a thing of you, but surely you understand.
Bless this
Okay.
bracelet of a snake, even though its vibes aren't great. Let it do nobody harm when they wear it on their arm. Voodoo spirits, go away. Don't come back another day. And now, let us pray.
Alright, so this is one of those puzzles, in my personal opinion, just because of how ridiculous it is. So she told us this little bracelet thing would allow us to gain access to secret voodoo ceremonies and the secret voodoo hound for. So, you know, obviously, since we're sticking our nose in the places it doesn't really belong, we should we should make a copy of this bracelet somehow. And we can do that, well, we can start the process at least, by making a cast of it with this clay that we took from the banks of the lake. Right here, in the middle of her room, we're gonna do it, right in front of her.
Gabriel has a thought about the clay.
Bless, oh bless, this circlet of silver. Take the curse, oh take it, Wilbur.
A lovely blessing, mon père.
Yes, I think it made a lasting impression. Here you go.
Alright.
I feel so much better
We
now.
now have a cast of a circlet.
It's a clay mold of
bracelet,
Madame
rather.
Kazunu's snake bracelet.
Okay, well, we got what we came for. Let's get the hell out of here.
Well, madame, I must be going.
Of course, father. I know how busy you must be tending you.
Okay. I guess we didn't
There's
need to hear
not
the rest
much-
of that.
I'm not going back on the street looking like this.
Alright. So there's a couple of other things that we need to do. We're gonna make our first trip ever to the Napoleon house. It'll be a rather brief little trip, because there's really not a whole lot interesting going on here. This is our bar, or our friend at the
Could I ask
bar
you a
over
few
here.
questions?
Sure. I'm not too busy at the moment.
Apparently he and Gabriel have a bit of a history. Gabriel comes in here rather often, but we don't need to exhaust all of his dialogue because truthfully he doesn't have that much interesting to say. But we'll ask him about voodoo.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Voodoo? I don't believe in it myself. I invented a drink once called Laveau's Tomb, but it wasn't very popular. Some people do believe, though. Even some of our regulars here at Napoleon House.
I see. So tell us about the regulars here.
What can you tell me about...
I'm no expert. You might want to talk to someone who believes in it.
Okay, well, who around here believes in it then?
What can you tell me about your regulars in here?
This crowd, the ones you see, are mostly regulars. That guy and girl in the corner come here a lot. When they're not fighting, they're all over each other. In other words, they're in love.
I see.
What can you tell me about your regulars in here?
See those old guys at the chess table? That's Sam and Marcus. They played every day for 20 years. Sam, the one with the purple jacket, he's lost every one of those games. It's not that he's a bad player. I've seen him beat guys twice as good as Marcus. But Marcus has Sam so psyched out, he loses his nerve every time. By the way, Sam, the chess player, he's into that voodoo stuff. He's always talking about spells and gree-gree and stuff.
Really? Thanks.
Okay. So we know a little bit about Sam and voodoo.
So what has Sam told you about voodoo?
Well, about 50 years ago, Sam was too shy to talk to this pretty girl he was in love with. He went to a voodooine and had her make him a love charm. It was a little pouch that he had to bury under the girl's front porch. Well, he buried the pouch, and the next day he went up and talked to the girl, and sure enough, she didn't reject him. Now she's his wife. Poor guy.
Alright, so that guy knows a little bit about voodoo. That is going to be relevant, believe it or not. We just had to go and find that out before we can move on with our lives. So, we need $100 to buy an animal mask here at the voodoo shop. And we now have a cast of a bracelet. But we don't have anyone that can make that bracelet into something we can actually wear. So if you head on back to St. George's Books...
Hello, beautiful. It's me.
I wish you wouldn't wear that coat outside in June. I could smell you from here.
And what we need to do right now is just wait around a little while. Some very riveting stuff here. But this is one of those events you have to wait to. There we go.
Hey, kids.
Bruno! How nice.
Gee, a customer.
Of yours? Hardly.
How's the flower business?
Well, better than the used book business, I see.
Rare books.
That explains why I so rarely see anyone in here. Are you going to sell me that wonderful painting of yours today?
Well, how much would you give me for it?
How much would you give me for it, Bruno?
Gabriel, don't you dare sell your father's painting.
Stay out of it, Grace.
Stay out of this, Grace.
Ooh, you're serious. You'll let me have it?
Yeah, I'll let you have it, all right. How much for the painting?
Well, I could give you 100. That's all I can let go at the moment, you know. My affairs are so tied up.
Gabriel, $100 for your father's painting?
Grace, I have to
Grace,
buy
let
a
me
crocodile
deal with this.
mask. It's very
Fine,
important.
it's yours.
Gabriel!
Here's the 100.
You better take good care of this, Bruno. This is not just another of your hip art pieces, you know.
Really? Well, I fully intend to make the most of its display, though not for your sake, I'm sure. At least in my shop, there'll be a chance of someone actually seeing it.
Burn.
I can't believe I actually got it. Just wait until I show Sid.
Now I can explain.
I don't believe you!
It's just a painting, Grace. There are things I have to do.
Have you heard of Willie Jr.? He looks badass. I want to look badass too.
Do you know anything about this?
It means you have no scruples at all. Selling your father's painting like that?
And just to make Gabriel look a little bit more creepy. God damn it. Son of a bitch!
This
Like to, make a confession, Grace?
Whatever you're planning to do with that, Gabriel, I don't want to know.
Actually, I already did it. Let's get out of here. We have an alligator mask to buy.
I've got some things I need to do.
It's for science, don't you know?
Hi.
I have some money now.
I have $100. You still want to sell that crocodile mask?
That's $100, sure enough. The mask, it's yours, sir.
So I've actually bought something now. Maybe you'll stop being a dick.
Here you go. Careful it don't bite you now.
Yeah, thanks.
Don't you go forgetting your lagniappe. A free bottle of Master Gambling Oil.
The sign said I could get Lady Luck oil instead.
Well, I wasn't thinking a man as young as you would be needing that kind of remedying. But if you's having problems with your...
Oh, that's all right. Believe me, I don't need it. I'll just stick with this. Thanks, anyway.
Of course, it ain't none of my business if you do need it.
I don't need it.
Does it
Of course you don't.
Does it really make your dick bigger? Because you can still exchange it, you know.
You know that Master Gambling oil you gave me?
We don't give refunds on the lagniappe, sir.
Yeah, I'm good. Do you know anything about we have a new topic here. Do you know anything about a secret voodoo hound fool?
Can you tell me anything about a secret voodoo hound fool?
Why, there's no such thing. Not around here.
Thanks. You've been a great help. Well, you have a great day. We don't need to come back here again. Alright, we're gonna waste a little bit of time. Let's go back to the Voodoo Museum.
Hello, Dr. John.
Glad you could return to us, Mr. Knight.
I bought a crocodile mask.
What do you think of my crocodile mask?
Nice.
Alright, that's all. Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go back to the Napoleon house. So since we know this guy has been losing to this guy for forever, and he's pretty superstitious, he believes in the voodoos, let's go ahead and give him some of this Master Gambling
Got a
oil.
second, Sam? It's about your game.
I don't have a game. That's my problem. Don't you touch those chess pieces while I'm gone, you bastard.
I ain't never needed a cheat yet, you loser.
Thought you might be interested in this gambling oil.
Let me see that. Master Gambling Oil. What's it for?
It might make a good salad dressing.
I'm a meat and potatoes man myself. Sorry.
Damn. Okay, maybe not the best sales pitch.
Yeah, but...
Let's try again.
About this oil.
Yeah, what about it?
It's a powerful
This is
voodoo
a
oil.
powerful voodoo oil.
Ah, go on. Really?
This voodoo oil could make a nun get lucky.
Really? You think it really works, huh?
That's why
I'd
I'm
stake
giving it
my
away for
reputation as a
free.
novelist on it.
'Cause using voodoo might not be fair.
Don't you ever wonder why Marcus wins every time?
Marcus? Using voodoo? That old bastard.
Pitiful, isn't it?
Let me see that bottle. Oh, this looks authentic.
Oh, it is.
If I could really beat that bastard. Stonewall, give me a Pim's cup, would you?
Coming up, Sam.
How much you think I'd have put in here?
Careful. You don't want to overdo it. Too much luck can be dangerous.
Ha! There's no such thing as too much. Now stand back.
Come on already. I'm ready to checkmate.
If you know what I
See about that,
mean.
Mr. Schmutty Big Mouth. Checkmate! Checkmate, you bastard!
Son of a bitch.
20 years I've been waiting to say that. Checkmate, checkmate, checkmate!
You are the biggest butthead Sam Singleton that I ever met.
Checkmate!
You can just put this chessboard where the sun don't shine.
It's like beating a boss in a game. He beat you like for 20 years straight,
Hallelujah,
but
I did it! Yippee!
you beat him once and that's all that
Nice
matters.
game.
Nice game. Hell, I was brilliant! Course, I gotta give some of the credit to that oil of yours.
Yeah.
I've been losing to that guy for 20 years. If you ever need a favor, you come to Sam, you hear?
Will do.
Now, as it turns out, Sam here
So, how do you feel now?
Couldn't be better.
actually have anything useful to say.
Can I ask you some questions now?
Look, I'd be glad to help you out, but I've been stuck in this spot too long to know much about
He's
anything.
literally been here for 20 years. It's his own form of purgatory. But little do you know, he's actually a jeweler, conveniently enough.
Could you do anything with this?
What is this? A clay mold? Well, I am a jeweler, you know. And I owe you one. Would you like me to cast this for you?
If you can.
You got it, pal. Actually, it'll be a pleasure to get my tools out first time in years. I've been too
I don't
busy
need to
playing
know
that
that.
goddamn game. I'll have the bracelet tomorrow. Meet me here.
Those guys gonna make a
Great,
bracelet
thanks.
overnight. Okay, whatever, just go with it. Alright, and we're almost done for today. So this next part is really the only way you would know to do this is if you're wandering around, or if you really remember the poem we got at the beginning of the day about the city of the dead. Let's head on over to yonder graveyard right quick. I could ask him some more questions, but we don't need to. I think we get the point. Let's head on over here. And look who it is.
Malia.
Mr. Knight, what are you doing here?
My family's tomb is here.
I was coming
Mine
to rob
too.
it.
I noticed. Subtle.
Well, Mr. Knight, if there's nothing else.
Don't go. I need to talk to you.
Whatever for.
I can't stop thinking about you.
I don't think you
I've been in
realize
your
just how
thoughts,
horny
too.
I
I can
am.
see it in your eyes.
Mr. Knight, you don't know anything about me. I'm not in a position to get involved.
I've said that a million times myself, but this is different. I think we both know we can't fight it. Oh, I can't believe I'm saying this.
I have so many obligations. My family is very traditional. You wouldn't understand.
Hey, I love tradition. I've seen Fiddler on the Roof 100 times.
Jesus fucking Christ.
This isn't a musical, Mr. Knight. We live in different worlds.
Look, I know you've got more money than God. Do you think I care? Do you think that's why I'm saying this?
No, I don't.
Why don't you come see my world? I have a little bookshop, St. George's on Bourbon.
I know.
See? I knew it. You're crazy about me, too.
She's
Come
been
back
Facebook
tonight,
stalking.
please. My world isn't so bad.
I'm sorry, but there's no place for someone like you in my life. Not now, not ever.
Damn it.
Damn it.
Alright, well, we tried. Couldn't quite get her to have sex in a graveyard. Did our best, lads. Well, I guess we're gonna go on home and beat off like usual.
It's getting late. Gabriel decides to go home for the day.
Excuse me. I'm going inside.
Oh, she's coming to see us.
Excuse me, I'm afraid St. George's is closed for the day.
I'm not a customer. I'm here to see the owner.
We're gonna screw in the
Why
back.
don't you just leave your name and number with me, and I'll tell him you stopped by.
Listen, if Gabriel is here, he'll want to see me. Is he here?
Really couldn't say for certain, but in the morning...
Gracie, say goodnight.
Ugh.
You came. I didn't think you would.
He's gonna be saying that later, too.
Either.
Your eyes. Oh, I could show you around a little. It's not much.
But in fact, you've pretty much
Please,
seen all of it.
Don't. I couldn't focus on much of anything right now.
Yeah, I know. God, what is it about you?
Just shut up and kiss me.
Alright, and we got laid in a very questionably believable love story. I spoke to one who smelled of death. He gave to me his ears, and crosses that were marked were made into a veil of tears. I'm not quite sure what that reference is. We'll see. Donk. There's a dude.
You're not speaking to me this morning?
Don't be silly. I just have nothing to say.
Have it your way.
Alright, and that is going to bring us to the end of another day and the end of another episode. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video where we will follow up on all the stuff we did today, and this creepy guy who's staring at us from the window here.
Have you noticed this guy outside the shop?
Yeah. He gives me the creeps. I wish he'd go away.
Speaking of going away, bye.